We are live.
We are live.
We are live.
Did I say welcome to the main event?
Run that thing back, bro. You mad?
Oh, man.
Behave before you talk about what I'm talking about, yeah?
Disclaimer!
Run that thing back. Nah, man, stay there in your corner, man. Run that thing back, fam. I don't want to hear nothing from you.
I just wanted to dive in. I've got a couple questions for you. Just let me know what you've got for me. I mean, I think I've seen the movie and I've seen it twice. I love it. I love your interpretation and your portrayal of James Gordon. And I just wanted to know, like, in recreating it, like, how did you go about that?
Well, Matt's script, Matt Reeves, our director, who also wrote the script was incredibly descriptive, and it was tonal in a way that I found really exciting. And it kind of, in some ways, merged with what I had hoped might be his vision for our story and for Gotham. It was grounded and authentic and emotional and personal in a way that maybe we haven't seen explored so much in the previous versions. I just loved the way he framed what we were to do, and he referenced films from the 70s that I had, been in love with. Matt and I are similar age, so we kind of grew up, with the films of Sidney Lumet and Francis Ford Coppola and Alan Bacula and, all of that gritty American, urban stuff. And so he was making a Batman movie, but at the same time, he wanted to make a real tangible movie about a real tangible place and people inhabited who were accessible to the audience in a personal way. And so I just read the script, talked to him, start the camera, okay, let's go. Let's do it.
All right, so I feel like in today's day and age, like, everyone is doing superhero movies. And like, from what you've explained to me about Matt Reeves' direction and his vision for the character, that was instrumental in you coming onto the project. Do you think if it was a different director and it was a different take, that you might not have taken the role?
Well, I was a huge Batman fan as a kid. Obviously, there's massive potential for these types of films that's kind of undeniable. So I can't, obviously this genre has kind of swept over American cinema and sucks a lot of the oxygen out of the room. So I can't say whether or not I would have done it with another director. I'm really pleased that we're not making Batman in space, and kind of take the character to its kind of spectacular extremes. I love that Matt wanted to have the spectacle and all of the, the dynamic things that you and fans expect from a Batman film, but that he wanted to infuse all of that with a humanity and an authenticity and a tangibility. That was what I had hoped for. One of my favorite superhero films is M. Night Shyamalan's
Unbreakable. That's one of my favorites as well. I love that movie.
It's like they are among us, and there's something for me so exciting and that like sparks the imagination in a way that something that's more extreme in its escapism just simply doesn't. It doesn't touch me. And I think that's what Matt was going for here. Batman is one of the few comic book characters that lives in a real city. He lives in a city that's based on and seems like New York City. And so it gives space for the inclusion of all of the things that live inside of such a city. The vulnerability, the heroism, the villainy, the psychological things, the personal things, the social dynamics, the political dynamics. That's an exciting canvas, and that's the canvas that Batman exists on from the beginning. And so Matt just, as a fan himself, really wanted to drive down into all of that stuff in a way that had not maybe been previously considered in other films. And so I can't say if I had worked with other directors, but I definitely jumped on board to work with him on this. because I felt it from the minute I read the script that we could do something special and smart and thoughtful and exciting.
No, that's great. And I do definitely feel like the movie is 100% that. And I feel like everyone is going to love it. In terms of the relationship between you and Batman, I think personally it's great seeing you two work as like pretty much police detectives. How do you and Robert get to that level of chemistry or like understanding each other?
Yeah, we met with Matt prior to filming. We talked, a good deal about, what we were trying to do. We asked questions, I think, that were useful questions. Really wanted to get to the core of who these characters are and the core of who the Batman was, particularly. Why does he wear this thing? What's driving him? Is it out of strength or is it out of a kind of fragility? Sometimes I think presumptions and past iterations that we didn't necessarily buy into immediately, that he's heroic, that he's strong, that he's accepted by, Gotham, the citizenry of Gotham. But there were these underlying uncertainties that we wanted to explore. So we began there. We just began with conversations. We began with reading the script together. And then once the camera rolls, you just kind of hope that you're on the same vibe and that you synchronize and just go for it. And that's really what it was. And because Gordon is lieutenant here, he's active in the street, it gives him a central place in our film because Matt wanted to celebrate Batman as the world's greatest detective, not simply because that's the origin story for Batman for the series, but also because it really added this dynamic to his film that is a plot-driven film. A film that's not just concerned with the bells and whistles, but really is about story. And so that relationship of Batman and Gordon becomes central. And yeah, Rob is just he's a wonderful, generous, easy actor to work with. And I try to be the same, and just get after it and understand where we are and go for it.
We've got a couple minutes left. And I think the last real question I've got is, if it was up to you, where would that relationship between James Gordon and Batman go in the future, in the next movie or whatever is beyond this point?
Oh man, I can't say. What I will say is the Gotham that Matt created and James Chinlund created, our production designer, is so beautiful and decayed at the same time, so comprehensive, so expansive and immersive. I found myself when I watched the film just wanting to stay there a while and explore. There's so many opportunities, I think, that it creates for exploration of the two of them, that the two of them can undertake together, Batman and Gordon, because it's a full city. And it's a Gotham like we haven't seen before. But one of the spaces that I'd like perhaps to explore, if we do, and it's done in some of the later comics, some of the Frank Miller stuff, is Gordon behind closed doors. He presents himself in the public in a certain way, and he's honorable, and he's trying to do the right thing. And I kept coming back to the realization that he's just continually overwhelmed. It's just all about to fall apart because Gotham is falling apart around him. And I wonder what those experiences do to the internal man. And it's a story with cops generally, Cops, some are better than others, but all of them, deal with a lot of trauma, and the ways in which that affects them is, dependent on the individual. And so that, that uniform is one thing, that public face is one thing. What happens when you go back home and you close the door behind you? Who are you then? So, that could be a curious place because it's so much in line, I think, with what Matt has wanted to do with these characters, is really get inside of them, not just the external stuff, but get inside the psychology and the personal with them.
That's great. Jeffrey, really appreciate your time. That's all we've got for today. Thank you very much. And
Cool.
hopefully get to speak to you again soon.
Cool, man.
See you.